For 16 years, I paid for everything, quietly. My daughter's mortgage, my son-in-law's car, even my grandkids' private school tuition. Not once did I charge interest. Not once did I complain. Until that Memorial Day lunch, when they called me dead weight. That's when I stood up from the table and never looked back. Before we go on, make sure to subscribe to the channel and drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. My name is Richard. I'm 71 years old. A widower. Former engineer. For 16 years, I was the backbone of a family that pretended not to see me. I paid for school, health insurance, groceries, gas, gifts. In the beginning, it was out of love. But over time, it became a burden. I was the man keeping everything afloat. Silently. Until Memorial Day shattered the illusion. The sun was blazing on the backyard. The kids were running around. The smell of barbecue filled the air. And Travis, my son-in-law, already on his third beer, decided to say what he really thought. Must be nice doing nothing all day, huh, Richard? Just kicking back while someone else foots the bill. The laugh came quick. Some looked down, trying to hide it. Ashley avoided my eyes. But I saw. That wasn't a joke. It was betrayal. I grabbed my napkin and wiped the corners of my mouth. With the calm of a man who's carried the weight of the world for far too long, I said, "Starting today, you're on your own." Silence. Total. Ashley froze mid-cut. Travis forced a smile. "Come on, it was just a joke, Pops." I stared right at him. "No, it wasn't. That's what you've been thinking for years." Right then and there, the mask slipped. I stood up, walked out slowly. But before I crossed the gate, I saw Mia, my granddaughter, standing in the corner. Her eyes were teary, locked on mine. She didn't understand what had happened, but she felt it. And in that moment, I made a decision. I would no longer rescue ungrateful adults. But for her, I would still show up. Back home, I went straight to my office, opened the bottom drawer. There they were, receipts, bank statements, proof of everything. Nearly $1 million spent over 16 years. Ashley had promised 6 months. She never left. Travis never paid a dime. I covered it all, and little by little, I started fading. They never had to ask. They just assumed. Travis disrespected me, but never my bank balance. Ashley said thank you, the way people say, "Can you give me more?" It was theft. Emotional theft. They stole my right to rest. And worse, they made me believe I owed it to them. I sat in my living room chair and looked at the portrait of my late wife. "You would have hated this," I said. But maybe she'd understand. She was the one who made me promise to take care of Ashley. And I did. I just didn't know that meant supporting a man like Travis, too proud to work properly, too clever to stop leeching. I thought about all the times I suggested they cut back on expenses. They looked at me like I was a stingy old man, like I had no right to ask for a little piece. But in that house, I wasn't a person. I was the emergency fund, the rug everyone wiped their feet on without even taking off their shoes. They betrayed me with time, with habit, with the certainty that I would never say no. And when I finally did, the pain didn't fall on them. It fell on me. Because when you stop being the provider, you also have to stop being the emotional crutch. At least a little, just to breathe again. That night, after years, I finally slept without clenching my jaw. For the first time, I didn't dream about bills or grandkids asking for things, or Ashley saying, "Just this one last month, Dad." I slept without fear. And the next morning, the world didn't end. It just got lighter. I didn't become this man overnight. What happened on Memorial Day was just the final chapter in a promise that lasted far too long. It all began in a hospital room, with my wife squeezing my hand. "Take care of our daughter," she whispered, just before closing her eyes for the last time. I said yes, without knowing that yes would stretch on for 16 years. Ashley became a widow young, 2 small kids, no savings, a degree she hadn't used in ages. She asked for 6 months. I gave her a house, food, a car, and schooling for the kids. In 6 months, she'd be back on her feet. Or so we thought. But months passed, then years. And I kept paying for everything, with money, with time, and with my health. Every time I tried to set a boundary, she'd say it was just until things got better. But they never did. That's when Travis came into the picture. No income, no plan. a man who said he was starting his own business, but never turned a profit. He didn't ask me for anything. He just helped himself. And Ashley, let it happen. I ran the numbers back then. I'm not one to hold grudges, but I do keep records. Everything was there. Transfers, payments, fixed expenses. Over 16 years, more than $900,000 left my pocket and landed in theirs. No contract, no receipt, just trust. But the issue wasn't the money. It was the emotional robbery. The betrayal that grows when help becomes an obligation. The silence that settles in when gratitude disappears. I started feeling ashamed of myself for allowing it, for saying yes for so long. It ate away at me. I remember the first time I thought Ashley might finally stand on her own. She landed a part-time job as a teaching assistant at a preschool. She came home excited, saying it was temporary but promising. I smiled, offered to pick up the boys every day. Even prepped frozen meals she could take with her. 2 months later, she quit, said the pay was too low, that the boys needed her at home. Travis backed her up, of course. Family comes first, he said. But the truth? He never wanted to lose the comfort of having me as his safety net. When things got tight, they'd give me that subtle, silent look, the disguised ask, and I'd cave, exhausted. But I still caved. The kids grew up calling me a hero, and I believed it. I thought what I was doing was noble, beautiful even. But over time I learned that even kindness in excess can be abused. When I started avoiding my bank statements so I wouldn't feel anger, I knew something was very wrong. The worst part was how Travis used my name. He'd tell people I was generous, that we take care of each other in this family. Lies. He never helped me with anything, never cooked a meal, never washed a dish, just smiled with his pockets full. Even his friends started making jokes. The old man's loaded, huh? Taking care of everybody. And Travis would laugh, as if draining me dry was something to be proud of. I pretended not to hear it, out of pride, out of shame, because admitting that my promise had become a prison hurt. And the more I helped, the lonelier I became. It took less than a week for the cracks to show. At first, they played it off like nothing had happened. Travis kept posting pictures of their backyard cookouts. Ashley texted like everything was fine. But bills don't lie, and without my money hitting their account every Friday, the whole structure started to creak. First, it was the credit card. I had canceled all the auto payments. They only realized when they tried to fill the tank, and the transaction was declined. Then came the insurance. I found out through the school, when they called saying the boys' enrollment was pending. Ashley was speechless. Travis blamed the system. But in this case, I was the system. The collapse was quiet but relentless. The mortgage fell behind. Neighbors began to notice. Dinner became instant noodles, and silence turned into tension. Mia called me in tears, saying her parents were fighting all the time. The younger one got sick. No health plan. Ashley texted me a short message. "Dad, we need to talk." I didn't reply. For the first time, I let them feel it. Not out of revenge, but because protecting people too much is, in a way, keeping them from growing. If they wanted to treat me like I was invisible while I paid for everything, now they'd feel the weight of my absence. I heard from someone that Travis tried borrowing money from his sister's father-in-law. No luck. They tried applying for a bank loan. Denied. Even Ashley's car, which I had paid off, was sold off quickly to cover some debt. For the first time in years, they had to experience what it meant to live without a safety net. There was one night in particular when Ashley sent me a voice message. Her voice was different, lower, raw. "Dad, I know you're upset, but we're at rock bottom. Travis is losing it. The kids are sad. I don't know what to do." I deleted the message. At last, she was learning what it's like to live without a crutch. I sat out on the porch and looked up at the sky, thinking about everything I had swallowed over the years. The dinners I paid for, the gifts, home repairs, prescriptions, even their vacations. The expectation was that I was supposed to do it. It was another kind of robbery. They stole my freedom, made me believe that if I ever stopped, everything would fall apart. But it wasn't the world that collapsed. It was the illusion. At the store, I ran into an old friend of my late wife. She casually said Ashley seemed kinda distant lately. I nodded. She's learning how to show up, I said. And that was the truth. Maybe for the first time she was facing her own reflection. Mia called again, her voice sweet but uneasy. Grandpa, do you still love us? That shattered me, but I answered clearly. More than anything, sweetheart. But sometimes loving someone means letting them walk on their own. She didn't quite understand, but one day she will. Later that week, the school sent a letter. Last chance to settle the tuition. Travis blew up and blamed everyone. Ashley cried in her room, and I, from my corner, just listened. This wasn't revenge, it was healing. Because forgiveness also means stopping the cycle. And I had stopped. That Friday, for the first time in 16 years, I didn't make a transfer. No phone calls, no promises. And I slept like a man who had finally turned off the generator that powered an entire house. Alone. The call came on a Saturday morning. It was Mia. Her voice soft, trying to hide the tears. Grandpa, Mommy and Daddy fought again. Can I come over? My heart tightened. I didn't hesitate. Grabbed my keys, drove to their house, and brought her home with me. We stopped for ice cream along the way. Sat together at the park. She smiled for the first time in days. As she licked her cone, she looked up at me and said, "You're never gonna say no to ice cream, huh?" I laughed. Never, my little one. And in that moment, something shifted inside me. I realized my role wasn't over. It just needed to change. They had betrayed me, drained my peace, my savings, my energy, but they weren't going to take my bond with my grandkids. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to Ashley, not to Travis, but to myself. A promise. From now on, I'd be a harbor for my grandchildren, just them. No more paying the bills for ungrateful adults. My help would have focus, love, and limits. Mia and her little brother would get whatever they truly needed. The parents were on their own. On Sunday, I picked up the youngest too. We made waffles, watched old movies. They looked at me with a calm I hadn't seen in years. And right then, I felt it. I was still needed. But by choice, not obligation. And that changes everything. Ashley texted me that afternoon. "You took the kids without telling us." I replied bluntly, "I did. Because they needed me. And because I can." Travis, of course, tried to call. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent a photo of the kids playing with water in the backyard. No caption. The image said it all. They got the message. I didn't reply to anything else. On Monday, I dropped Mia off at school, had lunch with the little one. I spoke with the principal, opened a separate account in the grandkids' names. And right there, I made a decision. The man who bankrolled everyone is gone. But the grandfather who protects the children was just born. In the following days, I created a new routine. Pancakes for breakfast, short hikes in the park, classic movie nights with stovetop popcorn. I started reading bedtime stories again, just like I used to with Ashley when she was little. And with every hug I got from those two, something inside me started to heal. The school noticed the difference. Mia's teacher asked to speak with me. She said Mia was more focused, calmer. Her brother, who used to throw tantrums, now walked hand in hand with me to his classroom. Little signs that even in the middle of chaos, love still teaches. But this time, it was the right kind of love, with the right dose. One day at the store, I went to buy a few household items. At the checkout, I saw Travis across the street, just standing there, watching. Our eyes met. He didn't wave. Neither did I. For the first time, I felt no anger. Just indifference. The same kind he gave me for years. Now he was looking at something that bothered him. I was fine. Lighter. And they were falling apart. That Tuesday, I got a phone notification. Ashley trying to access our old joint account. Pointless. That account was closed, the access blocked. I had opened a new one just for the kids with a non-negotiable rule. Every cent must be accounted for. Transparent, fair, protected. A family friend called, surprised. "Richard, I heard you're taking care of the kids all by yourself. That's brave of you." I answered firmly, "It's not bravery, it's clarity. Taking care of those who truly matter doesn't wear you out. It sets you free." On the other end, silence. Then a soft, I get it. That sounded more like admiration than judgment. That night, after they had both fallen asleep, I sat quietly in the hallway, listening to their breathing, peaceful, steady. I thought about everything I'd lost over the years, but right there, I had regained the most important thing, my worth, and no one was going to take that from me again. On Wednesday at 7:02 p.m., there was a knock at my door. It was Ashley, tired, worn out, eyes lowered. Behind her stood Travis, arms crossed, saying nothing. I let them in, but the air was thick. This time, they weren't there to ask for anything. They were there to report in. "Dad, we need to talk." I sat at the table and motioned for her to go on. Ashley opened with an apology. Rehearsed, maybe. But she said it. Travis held on to his pride, but I saw it. The arrogance in his eyes was gone. "We messed up. You were always there, and we took advantage." I said nothing, just reached into the drawer and placed an envelope on the table. Inside, a proposal, clear and firm. I'd keep supporting the kids, food, health, education, but only under 3 conditions: a public apology, a direct acknowledgement of what they'd done, and, most important, a visible, measurable change. They had 48 hours to decide. Ashley read it silently. Travis scoffed. "You're blackmailing us?" I replied calmly. "No, I'm protecting what's left." For once, he had no comeback. Ashley squeezed his hand. "We'll think about it." They left quietly, and I just sat there looking at the chair my wife used to sit in. I wondered what she'd say if she saw all this. Maybe she'd smile. Maybe she'd tell me I waited too long to take a stand. But it was too late for regrets. It was time to set new terms. Terms with value. In the proposal, I spelled everything out. No more direct or unrestricted support. Every payment would be made by me, and only upon proof. School invoices, medical bills, grocery receipts. Any attempt to manipulate the system would end the support immediately. No more gifts, no handouts, no favors without purpose. This was a moral contract, and morals are not negotiable. I also added one clause that cost me: the public retraction. I wanted Travis, the man who once mocked my retirement, to be the first to admit he wasn't self-sufficient, to say it out loud, to friends, family, the community, a Facebook post, a letter in the local paper. Without that, there'd be no second chance. Ashley hesitated. I could tell part of her felt ashamed, but I also saw a flicker of relief. Maybe she was tired of holding up the facade. Maybe this proposal was their only lifeline. Travis, though, he trembled with rage. "You just want to humiliate us," I answered without blinking. "No, I want you to start from zero, and you can't start from zero by lying." That same day, I called a lawyer, asked him to draft everything formally. If anything ever happened to me, I wanted to make sure the kids would still be taken care of, and that Travis and Ashley could never take advantage of me or my legacy again. On the way to the notary's office, I passed by the church where we buried my wife. I walked in instinctively, kneeled. Am I being too harsh or just? I left in peace. Sometimes God's silence is louder than 1,000 words. The next day, nothing. No call, no text, just silence. But I wasn't the same man anymore. I had drawn a line, and any step beyond it would cost what little trust remained. All I could do now was wait. On the morning of the second day, I saw Travis's car being towed. A black SUV, fairly new, the one he used to flaunt. I stood by the window silent as the tow truck hauled away the last symbol of his pride. Not a word, just the sound of steel chains, cold, metallic. That night, the neighbors were already talking. Someone had seen Ashley waiting at the bus stop with the kids. That same afternoon, the school called. Tuition payments were late. The administrator said Mia had been distracted in class and the little one was acting out. The system was catching up. What I had always quietly carried was now spilling into the open. No excuses, no cover-ups. Ashley showed up by evening. No makeup, wrinkled clothes. Her eyes were pleading, though her mouth still trembled with pride. "Dad, we accept." The terms. I didn't respond right away. I asked her to sit down, offered her water. "Do you accept them? Or do you understand them?" She took a deep breath. I understand. I finally understand. Travis came the next day. He walked, avoided eye contact, handed me a printed copy of the Facebook post and the letter he sent to the paper. It's done. His voice cracked. I read it in silence. Not poetic, but honest. For the first time, he admitted it. For the first time, he respected me. I gave him a quiet nod. He left without another word. At the door, he paused. They're your priority now. I get that. It was the most humility I'd ever seen from him. And for now, it was enough. The following week, life went on. Simpler. No car, no luxuries, but something new. Honesty. They had finally hit rock bottom. And maybe, just maybe, they were ready to start for real. On Saturday, I heard Ashley had tried selling some old jewelry, not out of vanity, but out of desperation. The same woman who used to buy name-brand clothes for the kids without blinking was now pawning off a graduation ring for half its worth. Travis, meanwhile, was washing cars for a guy in the neighborhood, a man he used to make fun of. At the grocery store, a woman from our street said loudly, "Looks like their castle turned into a shack." I pretended not to hear it, but inside, it stung. Not out of revenge, but because watching the fall of someone you once loved, even if they deserved it, is never pretty. Healing comes at a cost they never thought they'd pay. The school principal called me in. She said Mia had drawn a picture labeled, "My Hero." It was me. Her little brother, in a class activity titled, "Who Takes Care of Me?" wrote just 3 letters, GRA. That crushed me, but it also rebuilt me. It was clear. I had made the right choice. Ashley started coming over more often, but now she knocked, waited, offered to help with dishes. Small gestures. Huge, coming from her. Travis kept to himself. When we crossed paths, it was brief, restrained. But this time, his silence didn't come from contempt. It came from someone who had learned. I started noticing changes in the kids. They slept better, laughed more, stopped asking when they had to leave. In that improvised little home, they finally felt safe. And it wasn't about the size of the house or the amount in the bank. It was about the steady gaze of a man who chose to end the cycle of emotional theft. At the end of the week, I handed Ashley an envelope with a few grocery vouchers. "This is for the boys, not for you two." She nodded, moved. "I know, Dad. And thank you. Really." At that moment I realized they were still at rock bottom. But now, they finally knew it. And that alone was the beginning of the climb. On Tuesday morning, I found a yellow envelope at my gate. It was from the school. Inside, a drawing from Mia, the 2 of us sitting on a park bench. Underneath, written in crooked little letters, "Grandpa really loves me." I tucked that picture away like a diamond, because at this point, that's all that mattered. Clean affection. Not long after, Ashley showed up. No warning, but different. She was carrying a grocery bag and a folder. "Dad, we want to do this right. Me and Travis." We sat down. She pulled out receipts, grocery lists, medication costs. "I want you to see. We're trying." I took a breath, listened to every word. Deep down, I had been waiting for this moment for years. "Do you want my help or my approval?" I asked. Ashley hesitated. "Both." I pointed to the papers. "Then start by admitting that for 16 years, you confused presence with obligation." Travis arrived half an hour later. No defensive posture, no sarcasm. "I read your proposal again, and you were right." He sat down, opened his phone, and showed me the post. "I want to publicly apologize to the man who supported me, led by example, and cared for my family, while all I did was take." The number of likes didn't matter. The words did. They also wrote a letter to the neighborhood paper. Simple. Direct. Ashley admitted the mistake of treating parents as endless saviors. Travis acknowledged that he'd confused support with duty. And together they made it clear, now it was their turn to learn. That Sunday, neighbors whispered at the local cafe, "Did you see what Travis wrote? What a turnaround." Others nodded in my direction. No sarcasm, just respect. For the first time in a long time, my reputation wasn't tied to my bank account, but to the courage it took to finally say, "Enough." Ashley asked to read a letter aloud, one she had written but never had the courage to give me. Her voice trembled at first. Dad, for years I confused love with obligation. I thought your silence was duty. Now I understand. It was sacrifice. I didn't interrupt. I let her finish. When she did, I simply said, "Now you understand what maturity is." Travis, more reserved, didn't say much, but his actions were louder than any speech. He started helping at the kids' school, picking up the little one twice a week, taking Mia to her music lessons every Saturday. Only those who felt the sting of absence understand the weight of showing up. That Sunday lunch, I did something different. Invited a few neighbors, the ones who used to see me as the old fool bankrolling an ungrateful family. I grilled, set everything up with the grandkids. When guests arrived, they saw Travis setting tables and Ashley serving lemonade with a real smile. It caught people off guard. During the meal, one neighbor raised a glass. To Mr. Richard, a man who taught even when no one wanted to learn. The table went quiet for a few seconds. Then came the applause, modest but genuine. And at that moment I realized, it was never about revenge. It was about reclaiming value. The following week, their letter in the newspaper became the talk of the church. The pastor pulled me aside. "Your story might help more families than 1,000 sermons." Ashley was approached by 2 mothers also supporting their adult kids without boundaries. She listened. For the first time, she listened without defending herself. That night, Mia hugged me and whispered, "Mommy said she wants to be like you when she grows up." I smiled, but inside, I broke down, because in that one simple sentence was the answer I had waited 16 years to hear. Respect doesn't come through shouting or demanding. It comes through truth and the courage to change. 3 months have passed since that lunch with the neighbors. The house is quieter now. Less shouting, more light laughter. The kids have adapted to the new rhythm. They wake up early, do their homework, help with little chores. And me? I've relearned how to breathe without carrying everyone's weight on my back. Ashley landed a steady job as a dental assistant. Nothing glamorous but stable. Travis started doing food deliveries through an app. He comes home tired but no longer complains. His pride now comes from what he builds, not from what he flaunts. Finances are still tight, but dignity has moved back in. Every dollar is accounted for. Every expense is discussed. Even Christmas gifts were handmade, and honestly, they were the best I've ever received. A picture frame with a photo of all 4 of them, the 2 kids and their real parents, rebuilt from the inside out. You can see the respect in the little things. Ashley calls to ask for advice, not money. Travis sits beside me to watch the game, not to impress me. And the kids? Well, they run into my arms like I'm the superhero I always was, but finally get credit for being. The other day at the corner store, the owner pulled me aside. "Mr. Richard, well done. Not many men have the guts to teach like that." I didn't know what to say, just smiled. Because what he didn't know is that it still hurts sometimes. But for the first time, that pain doesn't come from being used. It comes from remembering what I endured in silence. At the end of that month, I sat on the couch and looked around. Same house, same furniture, but something had changed. Me. Not because of what I earned, but because of what I taught. After 16 years of carrying everyone on my back, I was finally walking free. Because now, everyone had learned how to stand. In the kitchen, I hung up an old calendar. I marked the days with little notes. Mia smiled today. Travis helped. Ashley said thank you. It might sound silly, but for someone who used to only track bills, recording kindness became my way of measuring real progress. One Saturday afternoon, Travis called me out to the backyard. "Can you show me how to fix this faucet?" It was just a pretext. As we worked, he told me he turned down a loan offer from his parents to cover the electric bill. "We'll figure it out, on our own." I didn't say anything, just handed him the wrench steady, because in that moment he showed me what no speech ever could: responsibility. On a rainy Sunday, Ashley brought over a cake from her mother's old recipe. Said she wanted the kids to taste the grandma they never met. We all sat together, and for the first time in years, I talked about Helen without sadness. We shared stories. We laughed. And for a moment, the past felt light. The kids now ask to visit on Sundays, even when there's no plan. They make their beds, leave little notes on the fridge. Mia wrote me one that said, "Grandpa, I love you as big as the world you carry." I folded it carefully and tucked it into my wallet, right next to my old retirement card. One said I no longer worked. The other reminded me my role had never ended. The neighbor next door, who used to look at me with pity, now greets me with pride. "You've become a legend around here, you know," she said with a laugh. I never set out to be an example. But if my exhaustion helped someone rethink their limits, then it was worth it. Because my greatest revenge was never yelling. It was surviving long enough for them to finally hear me. And today, when I look in the mirror, I see wrinkles that weren't there before. But I also see strength in my eyes. That's what healing really is. Not erasing the pain, but learning how to carry it without letting it break you. For 16 years, I paid in silence. Now, finally, I hear the loudest sound of all. The sound of respect, earned. If you've ever carried everyone on your back, only to be called useless, then maybe it's time to do what I did. Stop supporting those who only know how to demand. It's not revenge. It's called respect. And respect begins the moment you draw your own line in the sand. How many more years are you going to keep staying silent? Tell us in the comments what part of this story hit you the hardest. What did it make you reflect on? And of course, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episodes. There's still a lot of truth coming your way.